But I saw the pictures. I saw what you did to that child. And I won't say child, what you did to Adrian, an 8-year-old boy. I don't know how you could do that to someone that you claim you love. I see pictures all the time from homicide cases, people with holes in their head and their chest, sitting in puddles of blood, watch videos of people being stabbed. But these pictures were the worst I've ever seen. That is an 8-year-old child. Just to give everyone a little idea, and I noticed you talked about the boxing, but you didn't give any explanation to all those belt loop marks all over his lower body. Maybe even 100 of them. I mean, that's how many. His entire lower body was covered in belt loops where you had beaten him, and as Miss Thames stated, even in the growing area. What is wrong with you? How can you do that? So I agree with Miss Thames. I wish I could sentence you to life. I think it's well deserved. But as Mr. Wheeler pointed out, parties have reached an agreement, and I know they negotiated hard, and I am going to respect the agreement that they've reached, and I am going to impose it. But I hope you take these next 18 to 40 years to really think long and hard about what you did to Adrian Thames. So with that being said, Mr. Hill, you're going to be sentenced to the Michigan Department of Corrections for a period of 18 to 40 years. With the following special conditions: you must pay crime victims assessment in the amount of $130 as ordered by the court. You must pay a $68 state cost as ordered by the court. And you must pay restitution in the amount of $3,926 to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The shocking crime that shattered a family's trust. I never thought something like this could happen in my home. I trusted him. He was supposed to protect us. This haunting realization echoed in the courtroom as a family came face to face with the unimaginable betrayal. A father figure who was meant to guide and protect turned out to be the very person who would hurt them the most. The case we're diving into today is one of the most tragic and gut-wrenching stories we've encountered, a story that no one would believe unless they saw the chilling pictures. What was supposed to be a safe home for an innocent young child became a nightmare that left scars, both visible and invisible, for the rest of their lives. Before we get into the details, I must warn you that this case is disturbing. If you're sensitive to graphic material, please proceed with caution. For our new viewers, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share where you're watching from in the comments below. A huge thank you to our loyal subscribers. Your support has helped us bring awareness to these cases, and we truly appreciate every like, comment, and share. Your engagement matters more than you know. Now let's unravel the case. The disturbing abuse that was hidden in plain sight, involving a figure of trust, and the innocent child who became its victim. This case centers around Mr. Hill, a man who, by all outward appearances, seemed like any other man in his community, a father figure, a provider, someone who claimed to be an authority figure, someone to trust. But behind this facade was a troubling history. Born into a family with a long history of military and law enforcement ties, Hill grew up in an environment where authority, discipline, and control were highly valued. However, it wasn't long before the cracks began to show. As a child, Hill was often exposed to strict discipline, an environment where affection was rare and emotional support was even more so. These formative years likely laid the groundwork for his later choices. His interactions with his own family seemed to mirror the cold, controlling nature of his upbringing. There were early signs, small hints that perhaps the traits of aggression and control that Hill displayed weren't just a reflection of his background, but rather a sign of something deeper. Though he had a respectable job, his personal life began to unravel. Small disputes with his family, particularly with his younger siblings and partners, hinted at a growing anger he struggled to control. Was this the beginning of a pattern? Could these early struggles have been signs of the much darker road he would later travel? It was an ordinary afternoon just like any other, but for Adrian Thames, a vibrant 8-year-old boy, this day would forever change his life. In a moment that would ultimately unravel a family, Hill became the perpetrator of an act that would leave a lasting emotional scar.
I still haven't really cried. It's a hurt, it's a pain that a tear won't fall. It's like a rage, an anger.
What triggered this unspeakable act? Was it a momentary lapse in judgment? Or was it something deeper, something much darker, that Hill had been battling for years? On that fateful day, the emotional and mental triggers that had been festering for so long came to a head. Hill, unable to contain his aggression any longer, acted out in a way that shocked everyone who knew him. The abuse that Adrian suffered that day was both physically and emotionally traumatic, and it became clear that this was no isolated incident. This was a culmination of years of hidden rage and misplaced control. But how did such a seemingly average man harbor such anger? And how did this tragedy come to pass in a home that should have been a sanctuary for a child? The crime was eventually discovered when Adrian's injuries were too severe to hide. A concerned teacher noticed signs of neglect and reported the case, which then spiraled into a full-scale investigation. When authorities interviewed Hill, they were met with a wall of silence, but the evidence spoke louder than any words he could offer. His behavior during the investigation gave no hint of remorse. If anything, Hill seemed indifferent, detached from the gravity of his actions. Psychological evaluations were conducted, but Hill's responses only raised more questions about his emotional state at the time of the crime. What was truly going on in his mind? Could this behavior have been a result of his upbringing, or was it something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? The case proceeded to trial, where the defense tried to argue that Hill was under stress, attempting to rationalize the unthinkable. But the prosecution painted a much different picture. A man who, despite his appearance, was a predator, someone who took advantage of the very trust placed in him by his family.
Speak a lot louder than words. You might have some nice words for us right now, but I saw the pictures. I saw what you did to that child. And I won't say child, what you did to Adrian, an 8-year-old boy. I don't know how you could do that to someone that you claim you love.
The victim impact statements were heartbreaking, painting a picture of a child who had been violated in the worst way. The court's decision? A sentence that would see Hill incarcerated for a minimum of 18 to 40 years.
So I agree with Ms. Thames. I wish I could sentence you to life. I think it's well deserved. But as Mr. Wheeler pointed out, parties have reached an agreement, and I know they negotiated hard, and I am going to respect the agreement that they've reached, and I am going to impose it. But I hope you take these next 18 to 40 years to really think long and hard about what you did to Adrian Thames.
A conviction that, while legally significant, did little to heal the wounds of Adrian's family. The fallout from the case was far-reaching. The community was in shock. Neighbors, friends, and family were left reeling, unable to comprehend how such a thing could happen right under their noses. The media attention was intense, and many found it hard to come to terms with how a trusted figure could betray the very people they were supposed to care for. As for Hill, he now spends his days in a Michigan correctional facility, his future uncertain. While he may serve his time, the impact of his crime lingers, leaving a legacy of broken trust, pain, and a family that may never fully heal. Adrian, on the other hand, faces a long road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. How does a child move forward from such an unimaginable trauma? The case of Mr. Hill is a stark reminder of the dark secrets that can lie behind closed doors, even within the most seemingly ordinary families. But as tragic as this case is, it's a story of resilience too. It's a reminder of how even in the face of darkness, there's always a chance for recovery, for justice, and for hope to shine through. Thank you for watching. If you found this case unsettling, you're not alone. But understanding these dark chapters is vital. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts below, and let us know where you're watching from. Your voice is what helps us continue bringing these important stories to light.
judge has denied bond for a Carroll County teen accused of killing her mother and stepfather. Last month, deputies arrested and charged 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick with murder months after her family members were found dead.
The murder of Kristen and James Brock. Please help. My parents are dead. They're dead. The words echoed through the 911 call, filled with frantic terror, as Sarah Grace Patrick, a 17-year-old from Carrollton, Georgia, pleaded for assistance. Little did anyone know the call would become one of the most chilling moments of a tragedy that would unfold months later. The image of a young girl crying out in desperation would be forever etched in the minds of many. But the reality was far darker than anyone could have imagined, and the truth would soon come to light in a courtroom. Warning: this case contains disturbing details that may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Before we dive deeper into this tragic and shocking case, we want to take a moment to express our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you who has supported this channel. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or a new viewer, your likes, comments, and shares help spread awareness and keep these important stories alive. Now let's begin. Sarah Grace Patrick, a seemingly ordinary teenager, was born into a blended family in Carrollton, Georgia. Raised by her mother, Kristen Brock, and stepfather, James Brock, Sarah's early life was one of stability, or so it seemed. Her father, Daniel Patrick, and her mother, Kristen, had an ongoing history of conflict, which, by all accounts, had a significant impact on Sarah. Sarah's relationship with her mother in particular appeared to be strained, though it was often kept behind closed doors. While there were no clear signs of violent behavior in Sarah's early life, her family life was far from perfect. Divorces, arguments, and growing up with a step-parent can affect a child deeply, and Sarah's case was no exception. Troubling patterns began to emerge as she navigated the complex relationship dynamics with her family. Her emotional state remained a mystery to many, but in hindsight, the isolation she may have felt in her teenage years seemed to be more pronounced. February 20th, 2025, an ordinary Tuesday. But for Kristen and James Brock, it would be the last day they would ever see. Sarah was at home that morning, allegedly alone, when the tragic incident occurred. Details surrounding that fateful day remain unclear, but what we know is that Sarah made a chilling 911 call, claiming to have found her parents dead. As police arrived at the scene, they were met with a sight that would shake the small town of Carrollton to its core. The bodies of Kristen and James were discovered in their bed, a shocking and tragic sight, but it was not the discovery that would make the case even more perplexing. It was the behavior that followed. Sarah, distraught and visibly emotional, began posting online about the deaths. Her TikTok videos depicted a grieving daughter, desperate for answers, and urging social media influencers to investigate her parents' deaths. But unbeknownst to the world, Sarah was hiding a dark truth. The investigation into the double murder unfolded over the following months. Authorities from the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and the FBI worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind the deaths. It wasn't long before suspicions arose, and a thorough investigation began to focus on Sarah. Sarah's actions following the deaths of her parents appeared increasingly suspicious. Though she had initially claimed to be a helpless witness to the crime, investigators began piecing together a series of inconsistencies in her story. Her calm demeanor after the call, combined with the lack of signs of forced entry into the home, led police to wonder if this was truly a random act of violence or something more deeply rooted. After months of investigation, Sarah Grace Patrick was arrested on July 8, 2025, and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. The 17-year-old, who had once been the innocent daughter pleading for help, was now the prime suspect. During her bond hearing, Sarah broke down in tears as the judge denied her request for bail. The judge cited concerns that Sarah was a flight risk and posed a danger to the community. Sarah's family and friends testified on her behalf, but the court determined that these factors outweighed any support. Psychological evaluations were conducted, though the results remain confidential, adding another layer of intrigue to the case. Her emotional instability and the possibility of underlying mental health issues have been speculated, but it remains to be seen how this will affect the final verdict. The case of Sarah Grace Patrick shocked not only Carrollton, Georgia, but the entire nation. What was initially perceived as a young girl's heartbreaking loss soon turned into one of the most disturbing cases of familial violence in recent history. The media covered the story extensively, with many wondering what could drive a child to kill her parents in such a brutal and calculated manner. For Sarah's remaining family, the devastation was compounded by the betrayal they now faced. Those who once believed in her innocence now had to reckon with the possibility that their loved one was capable of something far darker. Her friends, once supportive, now struggled to comprehend how someone they knew could be involved in such a crime. The community was left reeling from the horror of the case, and many questions remain unanswered. As of today, Sarah's future remains uncertain. Her trial is still pending, and many wonder what the court will decide regarding her mental state and whether she will stand trial as an adult. The case of Sarah Grace Patrick is a haunting reminder of the fragility of family bonds and the shocking lengths some will go to when driven by unknown forces. The true motives behind this tragic double murder may never be fully understood, but one thing remains certain. The lives of Kristen and James Brock were violently and unjustly cut short, leaving behind a legacy of heartbreak and unanswered questions. As the legal proceedings continue, we will wait for the final chapter in this disturbing saga to unfold. But one thing is clear. Sarah's actions, and the darkness that led to them, will leave a lasting impact on all who were involved.
2 children are dead. More than a dozen others, students and staff, are injured after a shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis.
On August 27, 2025, a devastating tragedy unfolded at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. During a morning mass, 23-year-old Robin Westman opened fire on students and faculty, resulting in the deaths of 2 children and injuries to 17 others. The assailant then took his own life at the scene. This incident has left the community grappling with questions about motive, identity, and the factors leading to such a horrific act. Robin Westman, born Robert Westman on June 17, 2002, legally changed his name in 2020 to reflect his gender identity as a transgender woman. Court documents from Dakota County indicate that at 17 years old, Westman applied for the name change, stating, "Identifies as a female and wants her name to reflect that identification." Before the attack, Westman posted a series of disturbing videos on YouTube, including a 20-minute video where he flipped through a handwritten manifesto expressing violent thoughts and admiration for previous mass shooters. In these writings, he fantasized about being that scary, horrible monster standing over those powerless kids, and referenced the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre. Additionally, he expressed anti-Semitic sentiments and a desire to target children to bring the most joy. The shooting occurred during the first Mass of the academic year at Annunciation Catholic School. Westman fired through the stained glass windows of the church, killing 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel and 10-year-old Harper Moisky. 15 other children and 3 adults were injured, though all are expected to survive. Westman was armed with a rifle, shotgun, and handgun, all legally purchased. He attempted to barricade exit doors to trap victims inside, but ultimately died by suicide in the church's parking lot. Authorities are investigating the shooting as a domestic terrorism and hate crime targeting Catholics. The FBI and local law enforcement have reviewed Westman's online content, which includes videos showcasing firearms with inscriptions such as "Kill Donald Trump" and "6 million wasn't enough," a reference to the number of Jewish Holocaust victims. These writings indicate a deranged obsession with previous mass shooters and a desire for notoriety. Despite expressing anti-Semitic and anti-Christian views, Westman stated that his actions were not politically motivated, but stemmed from personal psychological distress. The Minneapolis community has been left in shock and mourning. Vigils were held at Lyndhurst Park and the Academy of Holy Angels, with hundreds gathering to honor the victims and show solidarity. Mayor Jacob Frey condemned the attack, emphasizing the need for action beyond thoughts and prayers. He called for stronger gun control measures and warned against scapegoating the transgender community. Governor Tim Walz ordered flags to be flown at half-staff and expressed deep sorrow over the tragedy. The shooting at Annunciation Catholic School is a stark reminder of the complexities surrounding mass violence. It raises difficult questions about mental health, identity, and the factors that contribute to such extreme actions. As the community seeks answers and healing, it is crucial to approach the situation with empathy and a commitment to understanding the underlying issues that lead to such tragedies. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. If you're interested in exploring the psychological, social, and political dimensions of this incident, don't forget to subscribe. This video delves into the complexities of the Annunciation Catholic School shooting, offering insights into the factors that led to this heartbreaking event. In the following sections, we will examine the timeline of the attack, the background of Robin Westman, the community's response, and the ongoing investigation. Through this detailed exploration, we aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of the events surrounding the Annunciation Catholic School shooting and the broader issues it highlights.